Jeff Fortenberry. This is First Nebraska. Joins me now. Congressman, it represents not only First Nebraska, but a significant House bipartisan task force on non-proliferation, which is very concerned with Russia's open-handed help to Iran and its nuclear weapons ambition. Congressman is working with Congressman Ed Markey. Together, they are working on the issue of Russia's helping Iran with nuclear weapon technology and what that does to the peace of the Middle East and the peace of planet Earth. Congressman, a very good evening to you, and I welcome you, and I'd arranged the arrest for the spies to underline the significance of your and Mr. Markey's efforts to tame Russia, which is at this point clearly abetting the apocalyptic and sadistic masters in Tehran. A very good evening to you. Where is this initiative now, and how does it work?
Well, good evening to you too, John, and thanks again for having me on your program. The Russian relationship is clearly complex and just got even more complex with this arrest that you just mentioned. The resolution of disapproval, it's called a joint resolution of disapproval that Congressman Markey and I have introduced, would actually try to stop the sale of civil nuclear technology from the United States to the Russians. This has been proposed by the Obama administration. Will again ship some of our nuclear technology potentially through trade to Russian entities. And we just think that the time for this is inappropriate. You've got Russia completely entangled in the Middle East. They have clearly been involved in assisting Iran's controversial nuclear program. You put it very well. If Iran obtains nuclear weapons capability, and it is a very short sprint from civil nuclear power to nuclear weapons capability, if they obtain that, that's a geopolitical game changer, and it has possible existential consequences for the entire world. So to hand Russia now a gift of U.S. civil nuclear technology at a time when they are very entangled with empowering Iran's nuclear program, they have sold Iran advanced conventional weapons and air defense systems and actually have assisted in the ballistic missile production program. To me, it seems like it's inappropriate to send them the signal that all is well.
You are co-founder of the Congressional Nuclear Security Caucus, and Congressman Markey of Democrat of Massachusetts is founder of the House Bipartisan Task Force on Non-Proliferation. That's a long way around of saying this is a very unusual pairing, a very improbable pairing. If I had to pick out two men to be the top of the wedding cake with regard nukes, it wouldn't be you two. How did this work, Jeff?
Well, we were called the odd couple in one foreign policy publication. I know Congressman Markey. We have divergent political philosophies on a variety of things, but in this arena where we are both very interested clearly in slowing down, reversing the drive toward nuclear proliferation worldwide, it was an easy partnership. And I think it sends a clear message. And again, and I do this with a bit of a heavy heart. I'm all for trying to engage in normalizing the relationship with the Russians through appropriate exchange and trade and mutual understanding. In fact, we met with a group of members of the Duma within the last few months, which was a lively discussion and somewhat productive. I hope they weren't related in some way to this other set of incidences that just occurred. But nonetheless, we felt like pairing up on this issue to at least highlight it and bring it to a debate in Congress as to whether or not we should be further empowering Russia's civil nuclear program when they're so entangled in the volatile Middle East. It was an appropriate move on both of our parts.
The White House is certainly paying a deal of attention to your initiative. Have you heard back from the White House, the national security operation, anything at stake?
Well, I think they are. I did communicate with the White House that I was doing this. I was actually invited, and I was glad to go to President Obama's nuclear security summit, where there were a number of heads of states and other leaders who were invited to try to get a handle on another chapter of the problem of nuclear waste worldwide so that we could secure that. And there were some good agreements that came out of that, so I was grateful for that. Clearly, I actually think our position by opposing the Obama administration on this strengthens the Obama administration's negotiating hand if they choose to use it with the Russians, by pointing to the fact that Congress is agitating against this and that the Russians need to become serious about sanctions and other efforts to help slow down and reverse Iran's drive toward nuclear weapons capability.
I read from the release on yours and Mr. Markey's initiative that under U.S. law, a congressional resolution of disapproval passed by both the House of Representatives and the Senate would prevent the president from implementing civil nuclear cooperation agreement. Where are we on the Senate, and do you have the votes in the House to pass this?
Well, unfortunately, the way this works is in the old Atomic Energy Act, an administration can go forward with an agreement unless Congress expresses disapproval, and there's a clock that ticks, 90 legislative days, and that clock is ticking. So there has been some increased attention to it on the House side. We've been in dialogue with some Senate offices who are considering introducing a similar resolution. Hopefully, as the time horizon narrows, the intensity of debate over this will increase and Congress will act. At the very least, there should be a vibrant debate about this. And again, it's my hopes that Congress would exercise its authority and stop this.
Jeff Fortenberry represents First Nebraska, but he's working with Ed Markey about First Iran, which is the Iran nuclear weapon, the first one to be tested, and that will be the day when men like Mr. Fortenberry and Mr. Markey can all feel the satisfaction that they were right, and that's what it will be worth. Jeff, right now, the mystery not only includes Russia and its intentions with Iran, but last week, 99-0 in the Senate, 408-8 in the House of Representatives, you passed some very, very clear direction to sanction Iran, the Iran Sanctions Act. That is part of what you're talking about here. If you're going to sanction Iran, why should Russia go ahead and do business with them?
Well, I believe Secretary Gates referred to Russia's relationship with Iran as schizophrenic or something like that. In other words, Russia needs to decide who's it going to be. A country that actually accommodates the spread of nuclear weapons technology, potential nuclear weapons technology, or stops it. A country that joins the responsible community of nations, is a responsible power broker, and begins to pressure and turn around this drive of the spread of this technology, which, if falls in the wrong hands, there will be nobody that feels the satisfaction that we were right, referring to your earlier point. It will be too late. What we are talking about here is the potential not only for Iran using a weapon or handing it to one of its proxies, but also sparking a nuclear arms race throughout the Middle East, one of the most volatile regions we have. This is a geopolitical game changer, and everyone, not just in the Congress and the administration, but in the entire world community that has a shred of responsibility in its leadership, needs to pay attention to this and act now. The time is very short.
Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, First Nebraska. I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show.